more minutes and then we can start.
Yeah.
We're waiting for Humberto Costa, who's senator from the Philippines. You know each other probably, right?
I hope so.
Yeah, okay.
Hallo. Ja, bin ich.
Aber sie sieht nicht so aus.
Ja.
So. Jetzt
Ja.
holen wir noch mal alles
Ja.
raus. Wir warten aber noch auf einen Gast.
Ja.
Ist es okay, wenn wir uns das teilen?
Ja.
Wir sprechen ja nicht gleichzeitig wahrscheinlich. Ne? Dear comrades, brothers and sisters, dear friends and colleagues, please let us allow to wait for 1 or 2 more minutes because we are missing one of our eminent speaker.
Sind alle Räume so mit den Tischen und so?
Ja, das ist total förmlich, ne?
So ungewohnt.
Eigentlich könnte man am Stuhlkreis sitzen. Ne?
So wie so eine Pressekonferenz.
Ja. Be surprised. I think it's the questions that you have received. It's about how to maneuver for a country like Botswana with a great power rivalry. What's your assessment from a finance minister's perspective of the international order? Zum Anfang, oder?
Ja. Habt ihr denn irgendein Signal?
Nee, die Kollegin sucht den gerade. Ich habe den auch hier schon gesehen. Ja. Ich hatte den hier schon mal rumspringen sehen, aber okay, I think we can get started, right? What do you think? Because we have only 45 minutes maximum.
Right.
So we need to be really short and crisp. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, colleagues, comrades, brothers and sisters, it's great to see you. I warmly welcome on behalf of the hosting organizations, the Progressive Alliance and the Friedrich Ebert Foundation. I'm very proud and privileged to welcome our 3 speakers to our panel, Shaping Our Global Future Together. It's great to have with us the Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development from Germany, Rim Alabali Radovan. It's great to have the Vice President of Botswana, Mr. Kachalot. And it's great to have the Senator and the party member of Akbayan Party from the Philippines. Thank you very much for joining me. It has been a very long day, so we will try to be short and crisp. We are not going to repeat the analysis of the state of the world we are in because we heard a lot about the patterns of injustice, rebalancing of power, great power rivalry, the various injustices, colonial legacies related to social injustice, to gender injustice. But we have 3 different perspectives, I would say, 3 different perspectives from the world, not only on how the world and the order are unfolding, but of course we would like to have also a visionary look on how we would like to shape the future of the world and how we would want to design the future of international collaboration. I would like to start with Rim. Great to see you. Rim has been the economic minister for the Minister for Economic Cooperation and Development for almost a year now, and she has been instrumental in designing a new strategy on how Germany should foster collaboration, given these new international circumstances in your strategy that's focused, that's very partner-oriented, and that's supposed to be strategic. You want to redesign global cooperation. And this is no coincidence, but the title of the strategy carries the same, almost the same title as our today's discussion. So as a start, we would be very glad to hear from you how you would want to redesign global cooperation.
Thank you, Konstantin, and thank you, FAS, for putting up this panel, and greetings to all of you. Great to see you here. I just arrived, and it's already great to be here. Well, Konstantin just said we're not going to repeat everything that is happening, but let me just start off by saying, why did I reform German development cooperation? Development cooperation is under a lot of pressure internationally and nationally, and it shows the most with the cuts with USAID, or almost, well, they killed off USAID, and this led to a lot of pressure for development all over the world, especially in multilateral institutions, but also for multilateral instruments. At the same time, we are facing this changing world order. We're facing a lot of disruption, and we're facing a multipolar system. So the way we have been doing development cooperation for the last 60 years was good. It has a lot of benefits, and we achieved a lot. But when I started my term, I said we need to adapt to this moving world to make development cooperation also work in the future. So this is how I started the job, and we made a reform in my ministry, and I published the reform in January, and we're implementing it right now. And as Konstantin said, it is under the motto of shaping the future globally together. So what are the key points? It's 3 points. And the first one, we're becoming more strategic. That means we're also, by the way, we're also facing budget cuts, not as high as the US, but we are facing budget cuts. So that makes us, so we need to focus. And this is why one pillar of the reform is making development cooperation more strategic. That means we have 65 partner countries in Africa, in South America, and Asia, and they have different interests. They have different needs. They want different things. So that means that we cannot do everything. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. So that means we are looking at the different regions and the different countries, low-income countries, middle-income countries, who are still our partner countries, and the BRICS states, like India, like South Africa, like Brazil, who are still partner countries of our development cooperation. So Brazil is another partnership than, for example, Sierra Leone. There's different needs. So we're making it more strategic with a focus on what our partner countries want. This is the second step. We're making it more based on partnership-based, based on mutual interests, common interests, and on mutual respect. So I want development cooperation in the future, not just for Germany. This is my vision for the future. Not only us going into countries and assisting in whatever we need to assist, but also learning from the countries. I think there's a lot that we can also learn as Germany, for example, from our partner countries, but at the same time come to the table, be very open, very frank about interests, and finding a common way. And in this way, we're also strengthening economic cooperation. And the last point is more focused. So we have a lot of instruments. We have bilateral cooperation, we have multilateral cooperation, and I don't want to fight between it. I don't want to choose between the World Food Programme and our work with GIZ in a partner country. I want to do what is best for the target that we want to reach, and this is how we are working now. And it is online also in English, so at bmz.de. Look into it. There's a lot of countries who are looking into it because it really paves a way for a new development cooperation approach.
Thank you very much. I think it would be very fair to say that more strategy or more strategic outline of German development cooperation also means that Germany and other middle and medium-sized or even big economies need to rebalance in a multipolar world. And my question now to both, maybe the Vice President as well as to Senator Risa, like from a perspective of a medium, middle power country that's also being challenged by maybe great power rivalries, I mean, what is your strategic answer to competing interests from bigger powers, maybe in your neighborhood, but also other great powers defining the international system? How do you make sure that you are not pushed into one of these geopolitical camps? Maybe you can share your assessment.
Well, thank you very much, Konstantin, and hello to all of you. Our perspective is that what is really important, not just for human beings, but for countries, is self-knowledge. Self-knowledge is important in our context. We understand that we are a small country in terms of population. We are a small country in terms of economic might. We are a small country in terms of military might. So we have no interest in competing on that basis. We believe that what truly makes us is who we are. Our democratic beliefs, our values, the rule of law, our peaceful resolution of challenges, and our non-interference. And we believe that it is consistency, values, that our consistency and our commitment and our conviction around our values, this is how we choose to relate to other countries. So we do not believe that it is going to be a choice between the US or China, or a choice between a particular country or another country. The choice is clear. Any country who we are aligned with in terms of values is a friend. Our challenges as Botswana, for a long time, we were one of the largest producers of diamonds, producing more than 30 million carats of diamonds every year. We were a major and continue to be a major exporter of beef to the EU. So we are really affected by what the big countries do, because the US, for instance, is a major market for our diamonds. The EU is a major market for our beef. So going forward, we realize the importance of diversifying our trade partners. We realize that we need to, there are countries that we have not traditionally explored and cultivated our relations with, that now our strategy is to diversify. So we have resources, mineral resources. We have the best wildlife in the world. We have the best birds, the egrets and the herons. We have the most beautiful landscapes. So when we think about relations, we are talking about partnerships. We are looking for countries who share our values. We are looking at countries who would want to co-invest with us, to co-create with us, to develop skills among our people, to prepare for the future together. So it is about co-creation and co-investment, and as I repeat, self-knowledge. We believe the starting point is us understanding who we are, and who we are is that we are a beautiful people driven by strong values. We are consistent about them. We have a strong conviction around those, and this is what determines who we relate to and how we relate to the world.
Thank you very much, Vice President. How does it sound to you, Senator Risa, from a Philippines perspective? I mean, of course, it's a entirely different geographical context. You are more or less sandwiched between competing great power interests. I mean, you can probably subscribe to what the Vice President has just mentioned in terms of having like deeply founded values and self-knowledge, but how would you try to maneuver the Philippines through this very fragile, competitive world these days?
Buenas noches a todos. Good evening, everyone. Constantine, your question to the Vice President and me is actually very personal also to the Philippines. If the Philippines were a human being, aside from renewing, but also redefining our relationship with the United States, no longer as the so-called little brown brother of our past history. We also, of course, cannot escape China for sheer geography, but we can determine the terms on which we engage with her as our largest and most powerful neighbor in the region. There are fisherfolk communities in the Philippines who really cling to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and our signal legal victory on the basis of that convention as something that concretely, on an everyday basis, enables them to continue fishing in and making a livelihood in their ancestral fishing grounds within Philippine territory. I think it's possible for us in the Philippines to somehow separate exploration on economic engagements with China while we continue with every legal, diplomatic, and political tool in our toolbox to uphold our national sovereignty. Going beyond the Philippines, our immediate neighborhood is, of course, the ASEAN. So it's an important regional formation with us, even if we have had our challenges within ASEAN. I think ASEAN is still faced with that challenge to exert even more political courage as a regional formation and not allow our current principle of non-intervention to allow sometimes the more conservative among us, member nations of the ASEAN, to in effect exercise a veto on more progressive positions of different on issues faced by different peoples and countries within the ASEAN. And beyond the ASEAN, when we look at other regional formations. BRICS, as Tima mentioned, is very exciting for us because it too presents a different counterpoint in our multipolar world and challenges us to imagine what the world could look like as a more humane planet beyond the old order or the old arena of superpower relations. The G4 is also interesting to us because as one of the founding members of the United Nations, the challenge it also poses to us, the Philippines, among all the UN member nations, to reimagine what the internal institutional arrangement in the UN is, not just in terms of the Security Council, but other relationships within the United Nations. The invitation of the Canadian Prime Minister about middle powers is also an exciting invitation or challenge to us, the Philippines, as a middle-sized, or some of you would think small country, not as rich, not as powerful, still dreaming to be a middle-income country, but I think excited about that idea of middle powers, middle-sized in whatever aspect countries coming together in this time that an international rules-based order is so challenged, and how to leverage, how to assert that our common values that the Vice President also mentioned matter and should matter moving forward.
Thank you. You just mentioned that the international rules-based order is under severe strain and it's challenged on a daily, as we can follow the news. And Germany is very vocal and is and has been a very vocal voice and champion to uphold and to preserve the international rules-based order. On the other hand, I think we have seen this over the last 15 to 20 years, or maybe even before that. There is a lot of critique also that championing for these rules is one thing, but really being consistent in the various crises and in the various power struggles, also for a country like Germany, is another thing. So, and I think I would say that rebuilding trust, if you want to foster global cooperation in this more multipolar, flexible world, requires, I mean, trust is probably the main coin of international cooperation. What would you say, like how can Germany and maybe other Western countries regain trust?
So they're having fun over there. And
You can also laugh.
yeah, no, I mean, it's a very difficult topic, but we have to talk about it here, especially now. So as you said, the international rules-based order laws are under pressure, under attack, and let's be just very honest. Yes, Germany has been upholding the international rules-based order, but our partners in the Global South are watching very, very carefully how we address certain situations, especially when we use international law. And they are seeing that there is some conflicts where we are more clear on it or more vocal in it, and some we're not as vocal as the other. And this is leading to mistrust in the global north, in Europe, and also in Germany. So I think the first step is not pretending that this is not happening. The first step is recognizing that the politicians all over Europe and the Western world, however you want to call it, are judging differently when it comes to different conflicts. At the same time, the Social Democrats in Germany have been very clear on international law when it came to Venezuela, when it came to Greenland, when it came to the situation now in the Middle East. I've been very open and clear on the attacks on Lebanon coming from Israel, but also from Hezbollah going to Israel. I've been very clear on Gaza, and other conflicts in that region. So I think we really need to take that seriously. It's not something naive. So what is happening now, what I feel like, and this is what we're also talking about in this context of our meeting here as progressive alliances, is that the far right, authoritarians, nationalists, also however you want to call it, are doing something that is making it seem like when you talk about international law or multilateral institutions or peace or diplomacy, making it seem like it's something naive to do. That we're just talking and they're about the actions and they're doing something about conflicts that nobody did something about in the last 30, 40 years. That's what they're selling everyone. And in the end, what are they doing? They're doing more destruction, more disruption. They're bringing more pain over people worldwide, and in some regions more than others. But they're not resolving conflicts. But we are we're not loud enough about that. So what I think we should do is talk more about peace. I mean, since when did we stop talking about peace and diplomacy as an instrument and as something you need to do in conflicts and wars? And we need to show that the systems, the organizations that are based on the international rules-based order, international law, like the United Nations and like others, are working. And there we also have challenges, and we have to be open about them, and we have to address them. We have to address that people, especially in the Global South, are losing their trust in the UN Security Council and in the UN system, not because they don't want to believe in it, but they're seeing what is happening. So us, especially in Europe, we should strengthen the United Nations, we should strengthen multilateral institutions and show people worldwide that it really works, that we're just not talking, that we're seeing results and ending on results. Because I'm coming back from the World Bank. I just came from Washington today in the morning, and we were, of course, talking about the war in Iran and what effects it has on the Global South. World Food Program is already saying there's 45 million people worldwide who will face hunger because of the war in Iran right now. Even if it stops today, and it's not stopping today, the Strait of Hormuz is still blocked, which leads to fertilizer not moving into the regions where it needs to move. So 45 million people already to this day. What the World Bank did is they set up an instrument to help countries who are most in need, least developed countries, especially in fragile countries, with instruments they can have loans up to $100 billion already. They set it up very fast. They learned from Corona pandemic, and it's an easier access than before. So this is just to end on a good note and on showing us all that it works, and we need to be louder about it, and we need to talk about it, and we need to show people that multilateralism, that international law matters, and it works.
Thank you. When we're talking about upholding international law, and I think you also refer to this, we are mostly talking about the rights of states to exercise their sovereign rights, and of course the norm of non-intervention, and of course no violence, and so on. But I would argue that in economic terms, we see a concentration of power in the hands of a few. There were a lot of panels about this. We see a rise in social injustices. And you serving as a finance minister, I don't know whether you would agree, but I would say that a lot of these economic imbalances and the unfair distribution of wealth worldwide is also somehow linked to indirect or maybe even sometimes direct violence. This is just an indication of the let's say, that the international system is not really fair. Like from your perspective as finance minister, how would you want to design or envision an international finance trading order that leaves the space and gives the opportunities to countries like Botswana, but maybe also to the Philippines, to upscale in their economies, to diversify, to industrialize, to also create good, decent work, and not being dependent too much on the export of commodities? What would be your vision for a more fair economic order?
Well, thank you very much. You know, there is a saying that the bow of history always bends towards justice. In Botswana, we have what we call the Khotla system. And what the Khotla system is, this is our brand of historical democracy. Everything we do in Botswana, we talk about it, we speak about it in a setup where every village, every town has a forum where people come together to discuss. For example, the fact that I am in Barcelona today discussing with you everything that I'm discussing with you, I have to go back to the villages and actually address the people and explain to them what it is that I discussed with you and whether it was a waste of money to come here or not. So we have a very strong culture of dialogue, and there is an inbuilt culture that in order for us to achieve anything as a church of countries or as a constellation of blocks, we need to be patient and constantly be in dialogue. And this is the base that it will not help anyone to point fingers at anyone and say that such and such a country is to blame for where we are. So we believe in dialogue, and we believe that we would never be able to achieve anything unless and until we work with others. This is why in Botswana, with a population of 2.5 million people, one of our most important partnerships is the Southern African Customs Union, because we see the countries around us as partners, as co-creators, as co-investors, and it's the beginning. We see SADC, we see the African Union, we see the United Nations as platforms for us to express our values, to live out our values, to negotiate our place, to do things together. But you see, multilateralism also cannot succeed without the goodwill of ordinary people on the ground. Multilateralism needs to demonstrate that it actually yields results for ordinary people on the ground. In the context of Botswana, when we were going through an HIV AIDS crisis, as a country, the president at the time, President Mogai, put so much money and so much effort in dealing with this HIV scourge that later on, our international friends, through the UN, through different foundations, came on board, and ordinary people began to see the importance of multilateralism and doing things with other countries, but it needs to start with the country itself investing in its priorities and people investing in those priorities. And then the same happened, there was a time when Botswana was surrounded by a hostile regime in the shape of apartheid South Africa. At the time, our economy was small, but we were willing, as a country, we invested in refugee camps to accommodate and give a home to displaced people from South Africa and other countries. And then, as a result of that, investing first at home, investing in priorities to house others and provide a home for others, the international community comes. So I would say that as a result of this self-knowledge, that we can never achieve anything without working with others, without co-investing with others, without co-creating with others. This has become so much a part of our DNA and culture, and also because of our history of the Khotla system. It's almost inbuilt that everything we do, you know that you have to go and account for it directly to the people. So I would say that multilateralism is a strategic necessity. There's no other way. You do it or you perish, because no country, no matter how powerful you are, can ever be able to do it. I studied in the US, and the US is so much different from what it is today. The US, yes, it's a powerful country in many ways, but a lot of its recent actions and isolating itself and separating itself from other countries is compromising its own success. For the first time that it has happened in the history of the US, where you hear of shortages, basic shortages of foodstuffs, incredible inflation. I always point to this issue of how, when I was a student, a bar of chocolate in the US in the late 80s was 33 cents. And then I went away, went back home, went back to the US, I think 15 years later. The bar of chocolate was still about 35 cents. But within a very short time, in the recent past, you know, the same beggar that had stayed around $3 for decades, suddenly it's about $16. So it is clear that no country, no matter how powerful, can succeed, can realize the best of itself. So I put it to you all that multilateralism is a strategic necessity. It is so much a necessity that we all need to bring out the best version of ourselves, to be the best nations, to achieve the best for our people than we can do in any other configuration.
Thank you very much. It was just indicated that unfortunately time is running out. We only have 5 minutes left, but Risa, I think you built an excellent bridge to my question to Risa, because you were saying that, okay, fostering multilateralism is a strategic necessity, but you would need to go back to your country, to your co-fellows and citizens, and to explain what you actually did. So I think we are all, or you as politicians, as progressive politicians, you're all challenged by a rhetoric from authoritarian far-right parties that say, okay, international cooperation is a thing of the past, we just need to exercise our own sovereign rights. So Risa, how do you connect the necessity for strategic, or the strategic necessity for multilateralism to the daily life experience when you talk to your voters? And how do you explain that maybe the miseries and the problems, but also the chances in your societies are directly linked to international developments? Because I think this is also a dilemma that social democratic and democratic politicians are facing in Europe these days. So how do you build this bridge?
Of course, that bridge is not completely absent from the imagination of Filipinos. As I mentioned earlier, the Philippines was one of the founding nations of the United Nations, and Filipinos also helped to draft the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and our different international conventions. But of course, for example, a mother in the informal sector communities whose immediate priority is, will I be able to lay a sufficient and healthy, if not delicious, meal for my family? It's not top of mind that multilateralism is my relief, is my help. But having said that, am I saying as a social democratic activist and politician that that's not important? Of course not. At the start of our conversation, I gave the example of Filipino fisherfolk for whom multilateralism is so important that they are able to continue fishing and making a living. And it is that multilateralism that gives an added layer of support and protection for grassroots and national struggles for a better life. And when the help is not immediately available in the national community, there are also examples where it is multilateralism and it is the international community that can step into such a vacuum and give help. So I guess the last thing I could share about this question is that in the end, it's also always a struggle of narratives. If we, as social democrats, we continue to connect the narratives of our villages, our countries, with the narratives of our regions and the narrative of the world, the planet, to say that, of course, multilateralism is important. It's not just out of fashion now, but it was in fashion before. No, it is a fundamental necessity of life for human beings. Then I think that is one of the most important and practical and effective tasks for us social democrats to continue to apply ourselves to and to continue to win victories with and for our people.
Thank you. I would like to finish this panel not before thanking you for being excellent guests, but with one last question to all of you, and please be short and precise, maybe one or maximum two sentences. If we were meeting again in two years, what gives you hope, and how would you see that maybe the international collaboration in different policy areas has improved in a way that we say as progressives, yes, it was worthwhile fighting for, and it was good that we came into the offensive. Reem.
I'm convinced that they don't fear our anger, they fear our unity. So what gives me hope is uniting with all social democrats all over the world and bringing exactly the ideas of this panel together with the different perspectives and going strong together for the future.
Mr. Moderator said one or two sentences. So the one or two sentences that if I come back here a year from now and I say to you that a couple of companies in Botswana have invested in her country, in Germany and in Philippines, then it is something worth living for.
I dream that in 2 years' time, the opposition in the Philippines, which counts the Social Democrats, will be one of the members of this progressive community that will have won the right to govern our country towards a better situation, that we will have used this terrible crisis of war and oil crisis as an opportunity to finally, or to a greater degree, implement more strategic reforms, solutions to long-standing problems around which more people can unite. And that in 2028, we will have a world that is more inspired and hopeful and empowered, because social democracy is governing and producing a better life for human beings.
Thank you very much to the speakers. Let's give them a huge round of applause. Thank you very much. I would like to close this event, co-hosted by FES and the Progressive Alliance. I wish you a wonderful evening. Enjoy the next days and the debates and discussions. I look forward to see you again. Bye-bye. Das freut mich.